So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us yet again for another wonderful episode of Wage. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a really fantastic topic. I want to give you that topic right now because I know that so many people have been anticipating the show. It's about polygamy, and it has been trending. So, the title of our show this evening is going to be the over sexualization of Black America Part 2. Some of you may remember we've done this show in the past, Part 1. It was very informative, so we decided to do not only a Part 2, but also a Part 3, which will be airing tomorrow. Tonight, we have some fantastic panelists. I cannot wait to introduce you to them. But before I do, I'm going to give you guys just a snippet of just a little something to introduce you guys to what it is we're going to be talking about this evening. And again, the subtitle is, I think I left that out, is polygamy or womanizing. Which one is it today? That's the topic we're going to be discussing. So we're going to start with our introduction to our show. And right after, you'll get to know exactly what our topic is, and you'll be introduced to our panelists. Thanks, guys.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like this. Baby, you a hard stopper.
Woke up in my city, yeah, I feel like Big Papa. I feel like Big Papa.
Nah. You gotta go like this, and like this. Baby, you a hard stopper.
Woke up in my city.
So hello, everyone. As I just said, thank you. If you haven't shared the show, please share it, tag some friends. We are always looking to see how we could possibly go about building our community to be even better and even stronger than what it already is. So in doing that, we have to combat and talk about relationships, right? And in order to talk about relationships and options such as polygamy, right, we want to get the facts. We want to be fully educated on exactly what it is, right? Is it something positive for our community to start to examine, or is it something that has a negative connotation that we might want to just stay away from? So with that being said, we're going to bring you a small clip from Sister Wives to let you just have a little bit of insight into what polygamy actually looks like today, at least on television. I'm going to take this time to remind you while we're pulling up our clip to please just share this live and just share it with some friends, tag some friends, and let them be a part of the conversation.
Is that we all share one bed.
Morning. Just getting up here. Part of that is because of space. I mean, we have the smallest house ever right now. We had to work it out the way we worked out, and it ended up working out in a way that we prefer.
Not one of us spends a night without Nick because it's very special to be able to, sleep next to the one you love for sure.
I like to be snuggled up in the middle. It's a nice spot for me.
I'll get the buns out here in like a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Another. Our schedule for sex is whenever I feel like it or whenever they feel like it.
Okay, so we have a little bit of technical.
Schedule for sex is that there is no schedule for sex.
Try to make sure everybody's taken care of.
You make sure we're all taken care of, Nicholas.
There's never a time
there's not a problem. In regard to intimacy, we always make sure that we're in a separate area of the house when Nick's doing his thing, having one-on-one time with one of the ladies, make sure that they have that time to themselves.
We got parent-teacher conference next week.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to have all of us go to the new school.
Yeah.
Nick has been a part of my son William's life since he was 6 months old, and he has been a great father to him.
I love that boy.
I've never had to explain our relationship to William because it's always been something that's just been normal for him. And he's grown up
stop right there.
grandparents or raised by his aunts and uncles. He's been exposed.
Okay, great. So basically, you saw a little bit of what the inside of that kind of relationship would look like. And even with the introduction to kids, some people are saying that this is a great opportunity to introduce an option, right, for family and unity building in the community. But we don't know, right? And so, in order to make that type of decision and how that would impact us as women, how that would impact men, the family, and most of all, young people, right? How is this going to impact and develop young people? This is not a decision to be made lightly. So we're going to go to two experts that I'm going to introduce you to at this time. We're just going to start ladies first and add to this stream. Mrs. Ayo Peterson. Ayo, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcome back. Listen, we are so excited to have you on our show tonight to just, bless our community with your wealth of knowledge in terms of everything. But tonight we're going to be talking specifically about polygamy versus womanizing. And we're going to take it back and we're going to, have a really robust conversation. So I'm just going to get started with you for a second. What is polygamy to you? Is it something good? Is it something that's optional, that's on the table? And what perspective will you be coming from?
Okay. For me, it's more of a cultural, religious option.
Okay.
And I'm coming from the perspective of the law of the Torah.
Okay.
So, we have three major religions in the world. It's Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And all three religions recognize the Torah as the law for the religions. Okay. So with that being said, as far as polygamy goes as an option, it's not legal in the United States. That's number one. Number two, it's not... This country isn't set up for polygamy to be successful.
Okay. When you say it's not successful, can you elaborate a little bit? What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, it's still frowned upon. Whereas if you go to maybe a Middle Eastern or an African country, it's not as frowned upon as it is in this country because, like I said, it's illegal. That's the main thing. The other thing about it is because this country was founded on Christian values, a lot of the laws, a lot of the understanding and belief system is based on Christianity, even though we are a nation full of, several different religions and perspectives and cultures. Our foundation is Christianity. When I say our foundation, I mean since the 1700s with the founding fathers.
Right.
But with that being said, we have to then say, okay, that's that perspective. But what is the true foundation of this country? Who are the true people of the country? What were their belief systems?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So coming from the perspective, like I said, from the Torah, you're not supposed to commit adultery. And I've posed this question to many people who have discussed polygamy. If you're not supposed to commit adultery, how can you marry another person without committing adultery to your first wife? It's like a conundrum. Another question I pose to people is, as far as polygamy goes, they said, I can have him anytime I want. Or people often speak of equality, like I spend equal time with each woman. So I pose this question. I said, if a man is supposed to marry a woman, and I'm coming from the first wife's perspective, and she sleeps with her husband 7 days a week, even though she goes from 7 days to maybe 2 days a week, and then another woman 2 days and another woman 2 days, that's equal, but that's not equitable because she no longer has access to her husband 7 days a week. So equality and equity are two different things.
Absolutely.
And then the Torah, it says that you're not supposed to diminish the love or the rights that you give the first wife. But there's no way to not diminish if you're participating in polygamy. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Let me
And
ask you one question.
That's just from that perspective.
And that's a great perspective. I love it. Let me ask you this question. Is it something that you would consider being a part of a polygamous relationship?
No. No.
Okay.
No.
I wouldn't either. Why wouldn't you?
Because as far as I'm concerned, it's adultery, it's fornication, and it's harmful to women. It's very harmful to women.
In what way?
In the ways that you don't have you have to share access with your husband. Basically, it's an unequal, imbalanced system. Not only that, for polygamy to be successful, then you have to talk about the other things that go along with it, like female genital mutilation, which is basically there are different forms of them of female genital mutilation, but one of the main ones is cutting off the clitoris so the woman doesn't feel pleasure, because you're not going to be satisfied with your husband if he's sleeping with other people. You know what I mean?
No, what do you mean? Do you mean physically, or do you mean mentally? You're not going to be satisfied, or both?
Well, as far as human nature goes, women have sexual desires just like men do, but they're different. And people conflate differences with being unequal. So I don't understand why it's okay for a man to have several wives and a woman should be okay with that.
Okay, so I'm going to pause you right there. That's a great start. And I want to make sure that my audience knows that we're going to have a balanced discussion this evening. So from that point, I'm going to bring on my next panelist. So I want everybody to welcome Ra. Ra, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, Ra, we're going to get right to the point. Now we're going to get a men's perspective, but we also want to know what perspective that you are coming from, and just share with us a little bit what you think about polygamy. Is it something that you see that could build our community, or is it something that you deem that could be potentially womanizing? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm taking it from a perspective of going back to slavery, when we wasn't allowed to be fathers, we wasn't allowed to be husbands on the plantation. We was allowed to be bucks and breeders. And that has psychological effects throughout the years. Going back to slavery, I look at it from a perspective of, the slave master he wanted to produce more slaves. So he was putting a lot of the men with any type of woman. He was putting them with, older women. Sometimes they could be a relative, their mother, their sister. Sometimes they could be a little girl. They was just trying to produce slaves. Okay, we wasn't allowed to really have any emotional attachment when we was producing more slaves for the slave master per se. Okay, so I think that as we move forward, here we are supposed to be, out of slavery. There was no therapy. We didn't get no therapy for all, the psychological trauma that we went through at that time. Okay, some of these practices is still being practiced, in modern day, in our communities these days. You having pedophilia, that's a problem right now. Womanizing is going on. And I know because at one time before I was married, I was a womanizer. You know what I'm saying? So there's polygamy, to me, from what I'm seeing, from what I have witnessed, there's a lot of womanizing going on that's being veiled over as polygamy. But a lot of these situations is not together. It's not under one roof. You got a man that messed with multiple women. They all live, where they live. They don't live under the same roof. So this is a problem. Some of the women don't even know about each other. Okay? And I think that's dangerous because, really, when you're talking about polygamy, you're talking about bringing families together to form a community. But everybody is on the same accord. The women on the same accord with each other. You know what I mean? Some of these women find out about the other woman and they can't stand them. They're not on the same accord. Some of them don't even know they was practicing polygamy.
Right.
You understand? So we got to understand the difference between practicing polygamy and being, a womanizer. Because, from what I'm saying out here, we do have a culture of womanizing. It's in the very fabric of Americanism. We are all products of Americanism. So that's all I'm saying.
Listen, Rod, I got to tell you, I love your honesty. I love your openness. And I'm so glad to have you on this panel discussion tonight. Like I said, it's very important that we tackle this issue from a male and a female perspective. I love what you said about that you were a womanizer.
Yes, I was.
Impacts our community negatively, because I've heard the opposing argument say that, well, men are out here womanizing, talking to all of these women anyway, so why not just, and I want to hear this from your response from you and Ayo. Why not just make it, something legitimate, since, they're having all of these families anyway, so why don't they just legitimize it? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
From what I see, first off, when you look out here, the community, a lot of women don't have a sisterhood amongst each other. They don't have a sisterhood collectively as a community. So that's a problem within itself. There's a lot of competing going on with the women. So how do you bring that under one roof without the jealousy, without the envy, without, the things that plague our community that keep us divided? How would you bring that together? You understand? And like what Ayo was saying, there's women out here that don't agree with it because they don't want to share no man. So how do you convince them to be under one? Exactly. You understand what I'm saying? So we come in we come from a monogamous culture. We wasn't raised to be polygamous.
Not at all.
You understand? So now, and then you got, and some of these polygamous situations is sexually based. It's not about bringing families together, raising the kids together. It's not. It's sexually based. It's for, some of these men to feed their sexual appetite. You understand? So we haven't even tackled that problem yet.
So Ayo, let me ask you the same question. Like, what do you think about that? Is it a lust thing? Because I know you were coming from a biblical standpoint. Is this a lust thing for men, or do you think they're really trying to build up the society?
I think that's a de facto excuse that people use to justify it. Because, like I said before, our society isn't even set up for that. And like Ross said, they're like in African and Middle Eastern communities and cultures and societies, they have, their society is set up, it is structured for polygamy. America is not. And it's not that we don't have a sisterhood. It's like I said, this country was founded on Christian values, and Christianity shuns polygamy. And so, like I said, and so does the laws of the Torah, which I said before that all three religions recognize. They recognize that the law was given unto the children of Israel, and the law is in the Torah. So the Torah even shuns polygamy. There's no scripture that tells the children of Israel to be polygamous. Basically, polygamy I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Let me cut in for a minute because I want to get back to the original question.
Okay.
Because, like we all should be out here living according to some type of fundamental belief system.
Right.
The fact of the matter is we're not. The fact of the matter is people are running around saying, I'm spiritual, to kind of negate the, the fact that we should be working on something. So again, do you think that we should have the women out here, the men are really looking at this as an opportunity to build a community, you personally, or do you think that it's an excuse?
It's a de facto excuse to justify, like Ross said, basically this is a way for people to womanize, but then fall under the umbrella of polygamy, because like I said, it is practiced in the Middle East and in African countries and some Asian countries as well. So they're using that legitimate system to justify their illegitimate behavior. That's what's going on.
Rod, do you have any history for us about when this started, and was it started in a good a good way? As far as I go back, I know that after the war, that people decided to practice polygamy so that it could, they could make greater families from a lot of men that were lost in the war, unfortunately, so that we got families up after the war. Do you think that it was good then, and can you compare that to now, what we're experiencing?
Well, it was a understanding. I think we had a better understanding on that back then, when you're talking about, deceased soldiers that had families and men that took on the role of giving that woman that had the deceased husband, companionship, but also to integrate the family so them kids can have a fatherly figure inside of the house. Okay, the problem is that moving forward, even in my family tree, the men in my family tree was womanizers. You know what I'm saying? I love them, but they was womanizers. And that goes back to my grandfather, great-grandfather. So we have a culture of this. They wasn't bringing the families together.
Right.
You know what I mean? There were siblings running around the city that we didn't even know was our siblings.
Exactly.
This is what it caused. It caused confusion because it wasn't being practiced in that way to bring the family under one roof. You know what I'm saying? And I have friends that had family that was talking about, yeah, my grandfather had another family across town. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what was going on. So I could understand, but was it being practiced correctly? No. If you having siblings running around and you don't even know that's your brother, that's your sister right there. You know what I mean? You passing them, just being on the street, just walking past somebody thinking they're a stranger, and the whole time that might be your brother or your sister. So I'm saying it caused confusion.
Yes.
It wasn't being practiced correctly. We supposed to be practicing during wartime. You know what I'm saying? For, like I said, women that were widows, that had deceased husbands, that had children, you know what I'm saying? That man would integrate the family so them kids could have a wholesome upbringing with the mother and a fatherly figure in the house. But from what I'm saying from the history here in America, it wasn't being totally done like that. I don't know one story that somebody, got another wife and brought the family under one house. I didn't see it. You understand? So if anybody has a story like this, please come forward because I never seen it. It was never a reality. I never heard no story like that here in America. So with that being said, you know what I'm saying? No, I haven't heard a successful story like that.
Wow, so interesting. I want to go back to Ayo. Ayo, both of you guys, I hope just got a chance to see the small clip of Sister.
Yes.
I'm gonna hold my thoughts on this and go straight to you guys because you guys are the expert here. Ayo, I want to start with you. What did you think about that? Like, just give us a critique or.
Okay, again, I'm coming from the Torah perspective, so my feeling is we should have a guide. We should have guidelines and rules universal laws that we should follow, right? And from my perspective, that whole clip was problematic on so many different levels.
On so many
different levels. But we'll just focus on the polygamy side of it.
Yeah.
Rob brought up a good point about how the way that it's practiced in America, and it's not brought under one roof, causing confusion, because what happens a lot of times is, like he said, you could be walking past somebody down the street and not even know that's your sibling or relative. And the problem that causes is sometimes people are attracted to that person and they try to get with them, and then they find out down the line that that's a relative, and that's another taboo. So though, like I said, our society is not set up for polygamy, so there's no right way to do it. Getting back to the clip, like I said, I don't even know where to begin.
This pinpoint one, and I agree with you 100%. It was so on so many levels just problematic. Like, and when they interjected the kid, it was like
that's even right. That's even worse.
Let's try to pick one thing, and we'll come back to maybe something else in related.
My thing is, I want to know what their foundation was for even starting this.
Well, let me add this in. To my knowledge, both of these women have like really super careers, and he doesn't have any. So one is like
okay.
One is like a tech guru something, and the other one is like another kind of guru, and he's just home, I guess.
Okay, to me, from just looking at the clip, it looks like women who are desperate for a man. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
And a man who is a whoremonger and a womanizer, and that's the way he wants to live his life. And I don't think they're following any structure whatsoever. That's what it looks like to me. That's the overall that I'm going to say about that. but I can go in. I can really go in on that. But overall, it looks like from that clip, because I know it's 3 women now, but from that clip, the women look very desperate and thirsty. And the man looks like he has no morals, no standards, and anything will do as long as he feels like he's getting over.
Okay, so let's pass the mic to Ra. Ra, what did you think about the clip and that gentleman? Is he balling out, or, how do you see that clip?
To me, from what I'm seeing, he got a situation where he got 2 benefactors. He can lay up. He can play the house while they go and be the breadwinners. That's what I've seen from it. Polygamy, like I said, is veiled over because, like I said, they getting the third. So the 2 women that he already with, they wasn't, feeding his sexual appetite to get a third woman. Okay, his role is to just be in the house and raise the children if he chooses to be like that. But at the end of the day, I see a man that I feel like it's 3 now, but in a minute he gonna want them to get another woman, then another woman. You understand? Because to me, it looked like he's veiling over, him being a womanizer and veil it over with polygamy. So that's what it seemed to me. So I don't look at it as him just trying to be a polygamist. I don't see that. I see him trying to feed his sexual appetite. And the women are, they in agreement with it because, he's helping raising their children and all that. That's the reward. The fact that he's making sure that, as far as the home, he's taking care and holding down the home. But I think that is sexually based. That's what it looked like to me.
Right.
Don't look like anything else. You know what I'm saying? He has a big sexual appetite. And if you look at the earlier clips, the woman was like, he's too much for me. That's what she brought in the second woman. If you look at the earlier clips, there was earlier clips that he was speaking about. The woman was talking about his first wife, the one he got with first. She was like, he has a big, his sex drive is very high. So this is why I brought another woman in. So, I mean, it's sexually based. Yeah.
He's well rested.
It's sexually based. Yeah.
Incredible.
And I was saying, I'm like, oh, okay. So she's doing that because he's like, if I don't feel like having sex with him, I got this other woman. Right. And now they bringing in the third woman. So them 2 don't feel like having sex. They can let the third woman, and he can, do what he got to do with her. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, from what it seems like, he got a high sex drive, high sexual appetite, and they're going to feed his fetish.
Incredible. The issue I had, and like I said, just from looking at that snippet, I'm going to be honest, I never even knew that this show existed until like yesterday. People were talking about it, one of my friends on social media. And it looks, so one of the many layered problems it was his demeanor. He looked very weak, and that bothered me. I don't know why, for some reason. I like, men to, have a masculine presence about themselves, and that's not what he was given. It was definitely not given masculinity. And I'm looking like, okay, and they look more confident and assertive than he did. So I was just wondering, like, wow, like, how does this work out? Like, and especially in a space where roles are still important to some families, right? And you guys could talk about how you feel about roles. I guess we could take it there.
Okay.
Do are roles still important in the household? Is it all about the women cooking and cleaning the kitchen and being the primary nurturers to kids? Any of that? Or can roles be reversed in this way and still be effective? And we'll start with you, Rod, and we'll go to Aya.
Like I said, it has to be a consensual agreement on which roles is going to. If a dude chooses to, be the one that cook and clean and all that, I feel that it has to be, agreement, because I feel like as far as roles are played, I think that sometimes we do play certain roles. You know what I'm saying? Let's say if the wife has to work late and you get home before her. You know what I'm saying? You might want to have some dinner waiting, when she get home, or you might decide to do the laundry. I'm just saying. Right. But I have no problem. If a woman want to play that role, I have no problem with her playing that role. Do I feel like, that's your role, that's your position. No. You understand? But if she's very comfortable in that role, what they say is, that's supposed to be the woman's role in the house. You know what I mean? I'm in totally agreement with it. I'm not going to get in the way of that. You understand? I'm comfortable in my masculinity. I'm a truck driver. This is what I do. I like being the breadwinner. I like bringing the bread home. I like, helping with the bills and stuff like that. I don't, what I'm saying? I don't mind playing that role. You understand what I'm saying? These kids need to see that because I have a son. So I want him to see me in a masculine role so he could grow up and be a provider and a protector. You understand? So with me playing certain positions and I'm not really, in a masculine position, being a provider, being a protector, walking around like a beta male, let her, pay all the bills. She's the one with the job. I'm the one, just holding down the house. You know what I'm saying? That could bring forth some confusion as far as masculinity, because he could go outside and see men playing this masculine role. If he might see another father, you know what I'm saying, that works and that's a provider and protector. If he don't see them examples in me, you understand, that might bring forth some confusion. You know what I mean? We got a lot of children already that's confused, especially these boys. There's a lot of boys not being grown. They growing up without having a father figure in the house or a fatherly example in the house. I'm there. You know what I'm saying? I'm under the roof with my wife and my son. So I want to be that masculine role. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? My wife, you know what I'm saying? She'll climb up a ladder sometime and change a light bulb, or we will put something together. You know what I'm saying? Because you can utilize the feminine masculine principle can be utilized to build stuff. You know what I'm saying? And she's strong enough where I know that she could build a house with me. You understand?
Yeah. That's how good teamwork, a good partnership there.
Yeah, there's a partnership. You know what I'm saying? But I don't try to suppress her in a way where this is your role. Like in good times, he telling her, you know what I'm saying, the kitchen and the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah. There's more to that. You understand? Because you have to also understand, you know what I'm saying, that women can be masculine to a certain degree too. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to, suppress that. If you can help me with this, help me with this. If you could pick this up with me, you know what I'm saying? I know you strong because I know your strength. You know what I mean? Help me pick this up. You know what I mean? We can move it together. I'm about the partnership and the collectiveness of the feminine and masculine principle. That's where I'm at with it.
Listen,
you understand what I'm saying? And together, it's an unstoppable force, especially with the black woman. You dig?
I love it. Love it.
All right.
Miss Peterson.
Okay. All right. Rob brought up a lot of good points. I want to go back to the clip that we just saw.
Right.
Part of the problem with it is the whole polygamy concept brings imbalance. And what Rob was talking about was balance. You basically, going back to the Torah, you're supposed to find a partner that you're equally yoked with.
Right.
So if you are, and basically for women, our role is to be like the assistant to our husbands. So that means that if your husband is a doctor, you know about that kind of thing. Or if your husband is a lawyer, you can help him that way, kind of thing. It's not as far as the law goes, it's not a thing of somebody being more dominant or better than someone else. It's more of synergy. Like, I can help you in this way, you can help me in that way. And it's not definitive roles where our society has made us believe that, oh, if you're a woman, you can only do this, this, and that. You know what I mean? It's very limiting to women. And as far as as far as the clip goes, that everything about that was wrong. Everything about it is wrong, because as a man, he should not be comfortable sitting at home and having two women take care of him.
There's that role.
Yeah, and part of polygamy is the man is supposed to be the breadwinner, and the women are supposed to be home and take care of the children. That's what polygamy is there for. It's like Rob was saying, so that the family as a whole could be taken care of. That's what it's really about. So everything about that, like I said, I could go in on it, but I'm not, because we don't have 24 hours to sit here and talk. But for the most part,
so let's redirect a little bit.
Okay.
Patriarchy. And we'll start with you.
Okay, that's a good topic to get on, because that's where the issues come. We are in a patriarchal society, but America wasn't originally a patriarchal society. We weren't a matriarchal society. We were a communal society. And that's where a lot of issues come in, because people always look at everything from a patriarchal perspective. Right. But how beneficial is that? And it's not at all beneficial to women. Not at all. So therefore, if women aren't doing their best and being their best, then that's going to be a problem, not only for the family, but the community and the nation.
Wow. Good point.
Because within patriarchy, it takes women's ingenuity for granted. It takes the fact that women have brains for granted. It takes the fact that women have legs and arms for granted. Like I've heard this saying so many times, I wear the pants in this household. Well, I have legs too, so I can wear pants as well. So what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Okay. I can think. The Most High gave me a brain too. I can think. So why can't my ability to think be rewarded just like a man's ability to think? Or why can't I add to society with my ideas, my thoughts, my creations? So part of patriarchy has been to suppress women's ability to even survive in society, because everything is dictated from a male perspective or testosterone perspective. You know,
interesting.
Even the words that we use, like in our society, the word emotion is a bad thing, because you'll hear people say all the time, "Oh, you're too emotional," but emotion is what makes you a human being. And love is an emotion. So when you're saying too emotional, am I too loving? You see what I'm saying?
Good point. Good point.
So people have to say, instead of saying you're too emotional, say what emotion that is negative that you are too much of.
Right. Yeah.
And we place a lot of what I want to say. I don't want to say I can't think of another word, but I'll use relevance. We place a lot of relevance on logic, right?
Yeah.
So we'll say, oh, this person's very logical, and we'll put that above emotions. But at the same time, psychopaths are logical and they lack emotions. And another problem that we have in the society is that we often equate masculinity with logic, and we equate the traits of psychopathy with masculinity, which is super problematic. When we tell men that a real man doesn't have feelings, a real man doesn't think about other people. You know what I mean? A real man doesn't have the capacity to empathize with somebody else. A real man is just focused on, strength and logic and pushing emotions aside. And that has been detrimental to us thus far. So now we have people like the gentleman in the clip who's sitting at home, like Ross said, laying up with all these women and talking about his needs aren't being fulfilled and all. It's BS at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If he had gotten with the right woman, if he'd gotten with someone he was equally yoked with, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But the fact that he didn't do that, then he will never have his needs fulfilled.
Right. Raw patriarchy.
Yeah, like what Ayo was saying, She was like, you know, to be masculine, to be a man, you can't show no emotion. You have to be totally desensitized. And to me, that's not a man. That's a shell of a man. Because any man can show emotion, can show, you know, empathy, can show affinity for others, care about others, you know, try to relate to others. You understand? So the patriarchy, and I'm talking about the patriarchy that is being practiced in this country, because this is not our patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? It's the man that's in rule. It's the white man's patriarchy. Let's just keep it real. You understand? This is the man that everybody mostly aspired to be or was taught to aspire to be. You know, he's the professional. He's the family man. He's brave. When you see these pictures, you can see a lot of movies that show him in a masculine role. You understand? And like I said, throughout the years and through Hollywood, we was being programmed to like, I need to aspire to be that. So which patriarchy are we talking about? We was never allowed to practice our patriarchy. We were stripped of our culture. So how, you know what I'm saying, from that, you know, definition of patriarchy, we was never taught that. Not from, you know what I'm saying, a culture that we once had. We were stripped of that culture. So all was left was to follow patriarchy, you know, through religion and through the examples and, you know, of this man that want, you know what I'm saying, that they was teaching us to aspire to be, you know, through movies, through him being the authority here, you know what I mean, different elements, you know what I mean, to act like, okay, this is how you be a man. So this is not our patriarchy. You understand what I'm saying? So what might be good for him is toxic for us, you know, because like I said, we come from matrilineal cultures. You know what I'm saying? We come from matriarchal cultures. So, you know what I'm saying? Patriarchy that we've been practicing here, as far as following his example, it's toxic. That's toxic masculinity. If they want to talk about some toxic masculinity, that's a good example of that, because, you know, from what I've seen from the patriarchy that he practiced, you know what I'm saying, and we was taught, was to make women subservient, make them submissive, limit their roles, you know what I'm saying, in the companionship. And there's so much more to a woman, way much more.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I wanted either of you can, you know, start with this. What would you have to say to someone who says, you know, way back before slavery, this is what we did. This was a practice by us. I'm asking that question for somebody who I don't see on the show, but I know that they mentioned that in terms of perspective. But like, what do you think about that? And either of you can start there. Like, you know, and again, this was a practice allegedly before slavery that was effective. I think that's what they was insinuating, that this practice has been effective and historically, and that is something that's the reason why we should look at it again.
Well, the reason what? Yeah, go ahead, sis.
Polygamy? Are you talking about polygamy as the practice?
Right.
Okay. I just want to be clear. Right, you can finish.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Well, polygamy came about because it was permitted by the matriarch. It was permitted by the mothers. The only reason why, because the women outnumbered the men. You understand? So that was the reason why, you know, polygamy was practiced back then in the nations that we had before, you know, colonization, from what I understood. But it was permitted by the mothers solely on the fact is that if the women outnumbered the men, they had to do it in a way where a woman could have a companion. But like I said, you know what I'm saying, it was to bring, you know, it was to form a community. The men played a balanced role in that at that time. But to me, like I said, it goes back to the women outnumbering the men, you know what I'm saying, and it was permitted by the matriarch. It was so you know, the men wouldn't go out here because, you know, if a woman don't have a companion, she's going to seek a companion. If the women outnumber the men, you might have some infidelity. They was probably trying to make it in a way where it wouldn't be no type of infidelity. if there was one man and one, marrying one woman, then there would be women without a companion if the women outnumbered the men.
Right.
So they was trying to find a way to keep the balance in the order, amongst our tribes and our nations at that time. So it was all about just trying to balance it out. If we was in a nation and let's say the women outnumber the men like 12-1, because, I could give an example right now in the present day. They were saying that in Atlanta, the women outnumber the men. I heard that for years.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, there's a lot of, a lot of loose sex going on. There's a lot of infidelity going on. You know what I'm saying? I know somebody that got a divorce when they moved to Atlanta, because there were so many single women, because the women outnumber the men. So that shows you that could be a problem if there's not enough companions for the women.
Good stuff right there. Ayo?
I agree with what Ross said 100%. The reason, like I said, in other countries it was permitted was exactly what he said. It was men outnumbered the women. The problem with that is we don't have that issue. We don't have the wars where women are outnumbering the women. The issues that we have nowadays, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because we've been brainwashed to believe that there's not enough men to go around, there's not enough men to go around. And the reason there's not enough men to go around is not because the men aren't here. A lot of times the men are incarcerated. The men have chosen to participate in a alternative lifestyle like homosexuality, or they might be into a lifestyle or like open relationships where sometimes a woman might not want to participate in that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
She would rather be by herself than to, be a ride or die chick waiting for a guy to get out of jail, or she'd rather be by herself than to be married to a down low man, or she'd rather be by herself than to marry a man who can never get his satisfaction from one woman. And that's an issue that we don't delve into too much, because that's more of a moral issue, and nobody wants to talk about it because everybody wants to act like, oh, you can do whatever you want to do and do as thou wilt. But there are consequences to that. And it's detrimental. Like I said, it's not just detrimental to the person participating in it, but it's detrimental to the family and the society at large. So at the present time, we do not have an issue of not enough men. That is not the issue. So therefore, we don't need to participate in polygamy like was necessary in the past, like Ross said, when we were at war. And the other thing is there has to be agreement for polygamy. There has to be agreement. Like the woman has to agree. A lot of times, like in modern day times, I've talked to a lot of Muslim sisters, and they're not, a lot that I talk to aren't down with it, no matter what anybody says. But the ones who are, it's like they have told me that they have to initiate it, basically. They have to initiate it, and they have to agree upon it, or else it's not happening. So
yeah. So okay. So my next question is this, right? Now you said that there is enough men, but if the men are in jail, they don't have access to them, right?
Right. No, because I'm saying literally there was a time because of war where like he said, there was not enough men to go around. But I'm saying because we've heard that so much, our generation has heard that so much, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where now we don't have enough men. It's not because they're not in existence, it's because they are caught up in other things. And our cult and what's happening in society is everything is against the people who look like us. So everything that you see in the media is negative towards us. So we have
wait. Let me for cutting. But I want to, in essence of time, I want to really like kind of push this toward the direction, even though we're not legitimately at what the country would categorize as a war. I think within our communities, right, within who we are in this country, right, a nation within a nation, that we are at war when we see our young people being shot and killed every night in the street. I just want to get your thoughts on both of your thoughts on this, because I think that that's one reason, one essential reason why some men, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that it's totally out of in a negative way, but it may have some sense of relevancy, right? That if we start meshing our families together, that maybe this could be a way to get some of our young men out of the street, get some of our young people back in a family structure, even though this looks different for our social climate, but that they think that this could potentially be an option. So with that being said, and I'll start with Ra, and especially us being, maybe you could talk a little bit about the caste system, because families create wealth, and if you're not in a family, sometimes you're not living on two family income. Instead of the wife watching the kids, you're paying. Some people are paying like what you make it work could just go to child care alone. So, like, what do you think about that in terms of Rod? And I'll start with you first. Wealth. The caste system that we're dealing with here, and could it be a viable option to salvage some of the wrongdoing in the streets right now? Rock, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. You hear me?
Yeah. Did you hear the question?
Okay. Yeah, I heard the question. Yeah. First of all, we wasn't allowed to grow generational wealth. We seen that with Black Wall Street. We seen that with Rosewood. As far as the wealth is concerned, we have to examine these laws that we subjected to that don't give us no standing in law, don't allow us to have our own communities without having some outside entity controlling our communities. The problem is we live in communities that is totally controlled and operated, by the white dominant society without real estate. To put the businesses inside, we don't own the real estate the businesses are inside of, then we don't have an establishment. We're not well established anywhere. So we got a hard time growing wealth due to the fact that we're constantly being suppressed by the dominant society, not just the white dominant society, but also the black dominant society that's amongst us that's selling us out. Now, as far as bringing the families together, because we are at war. We're in a war right now. The problem is, and I'm going to start with the family structure right now. I'm not going to even go into polygamy yet. We got to look at the family structure. A lot of the children are not listening to the parents. They're very unruly. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them are very, they're very unruly. They bump heads a lot with the mother and father.
Right.
So how do you integrate kids that is not listening, kids that don't want to follow rules into another family with kids that don't want to follow rules as well? You're going to have a whole lot of confusion.
Right.
First of all, you know what I'm saying? There's kids, you got kids that don't even want to share with their siblings.
Right.
So how you going to bring them into a bigger situation with other kids? This is how they are. We got to really examine that. Our children being so disorderly, with the parents. So we can't even talk about polygamy until we examine that and try to find a solution to get that in accordance, and have the family structure the way it needs to be. Your side of things got to be straight before you want to integrate with another family, and vice versa. You can't have your kids is not listening to you, so now they're going to listen to me. You know what I'm saying? They're not listening to you. So now you coming in, I'm supposed to be the father. You know what I mean? They don't respect you, so now they're going to respect me out of nowhere. Nah, it don't work like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we're going to have to look at the family structure we got now before we can even talk about polygamous situations.
Right.
And make sure that's straight, and make sure everything is moving accordingly. You know what I'm saying? I'm the parent, you're the child, and that's not met with no resistance.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So moving forward, man, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
We have to have these conversations.
We do. That's why we have.
We got to be honest. We got to be honest with each other. Because, you know, you don't want to talk bad about your children. But if your children is a problem, the person is going to see that.
That's right. And you know what, Rob? We're going to have another show for that because, you know, I often see a lot of people publicize, oh, you know, and I said this before, you know, 18 years ago or 21 years ago, you know, I gave birth to this wonderful human being. And the reality is not always that, right? The reality is some of these kids are horrible.
That part.
And don't mind that you know, right? And some of them are even worse than that. Some of them borderline abusive, and people don't talk about that. People don't talk about that. So what happens when the mom loses the battle in the house, or it's some instances where mom and dad are in the house, and the child is still, like you said, being unruly. So, but no one's having that discussion. But when you drive around and you see like literally hundreds of kids in the street, they're teen parties, 13 or 14 years old. And I keep wondering, like, who is allowing a 13 or 14-year-old to attend parties? So many. Like, why are you not in the bed and getting ready for school the next day? But that's another show for another topic for another show. But what I am saying is that, just to, you know, piggyback off what you're saying, we're talking about polygamy. We're talking about restructuring a family and what it looks like, you know, in comparison to what we're dealing with now. Ayo, I don't know if you can get in here somewhere.
Okay, Rye, you brought up a lot of good points. There was something that you said that I want to piggyback off of. There's been this trend on social media where they're showing like a guy buying things. Like, let's say he has a baby mama and the baby mama has 4 kids and 3 baby daddies. So one of the baby daddies will buy something for his kid alone, and then, you know, cause, you know, grief for the other kids. And, you know, I've heard a lot of people commenting like, that's right, that's his seed, that's his responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And this goes back to what I said before. We're not as, we're indigenous to this land, so we're not patriarchal. We were communal before. Before slavery, before all that, we were communal. So the whole concept of polygamy is unnecessary if you're communal, because everybody is your family. You see what I'm saying? If you have that structure, like our neighborhood back in the day, even in our lifetimes, in our neighborhood, you know, Miss Sally up the street was watching you when you were coming home from school, and if you acted up, she would tell your parents. That's communal. You don't need patriarchy. And patriarchy, like I said, or I should say, like Ross said, is basically a white European concept, and that has nothing to do with us, our culture, or our history. In fact, it's anti-us, our culture, and our history. And getting back to the whole, can polygamy help our community? The answer is absolutely not, because our community is not set up for, not conducive for polygamy. That's number one. Number two, it would cause too many problems. It would be more beneficial to think of a different way. And I'll go back to what I said also about the law, because in the Torah, there are 613 laws. If people investigated, looked at the laws, and see the structure, if people followed those laws, we wouldn't have the problems that we have today, because they have an answer for what if someone dies? What do you do? Like, there are rules and regulations for widows and orphans, and, you know, like who you're supposed to marry, who you're not supposed to marry. Because that's another thing. People are getting into the union of marriage without a lot of consideration as to how it's going to affect their families, their communities, and society as a whole. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, really, I don't I don't want to say willy-nilly, but it's like no forethought put into this major decision. You know what I mean? It's more like a feeling of right here, right now. Like I believe that this is a good thing right here, right now, but people aren't thinking about the consequences. Getting back to what you were saying about children and, you know, the way they're acting, the way they're behaving, we have been lied to about everything. I'm going to say that. One of the things we have not been told about is the fact that we have a group of people in our society that are narcissistic and psychopathic and sociopathic. So a lot of the tensions that you see in families could be because that child might be on the spectrum of psychopathy. You know what I mean? And it
Right.
has nothing to do with the parents. The parents could be really good people, but they cannot control the child because the child has a problem with the way their brain functions and their ability to empathize or the ability to feel the way that other human beings do. That's one thing. Going back to what Sheila was saying about why are there so many kids on the street, a lot of times those children do not have parents. And you made a good point earlier when you said we are at war right now. We are at war. What I was talking about before when I said we weren't in war was I meant that we did not have casualties from
Right.
war, but we are at war
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Part of the war is the war on, you know, the drug war. We've lost a lot of parents due to drug abuse in our communities. We've lost a lot of parents due to violence in our communities. So what happens is a lot of times children are left to the foster care system or to grandparents who aren't in a position to adequately care for children. So that's why you see a lot of children on, you know, out and about. A lot of these children are literally homeless. So they don't have the guidance, they don't have the support that they need. And that goes back to the patriarchal system that we're in, because had we been in our ancient communal system, that would have been a way for us to take care of that child.
That's right. That's right.
Within the family structure. And you could have a communal system without having polygamy. So
It sounds good.
polygamy, and there are things that have to be done to have polygamy be successful. Part of it is you have to you have to subjugate yourself as a woman, and then you have to have things done to your body that's unhuman. You know what I mean? Inhumane, I should say. It's inhumane. You have to have things done to your body, or else you're not going to naturally want to participate in such a system.
Now, because thank you so much for that, Ayo. Now that we're coming toward the end of our show, for this evening at least, I want to just go back and ask Ra a question that I asked you earlier. I don't think I asked him. Ra, do you think that you would be a good candidate for a polygamy, a coming together? Whereas, you know, as a man, well, your wife had 2 husbands.
Oh, you talking about polyandry?
Oh, okay. Oh,
No.
Thank you for that. I didn't realize that was
Yeah, polyandry. Yeah, that's when a woman has 2 husbands.
Polyandry. Okay. So, what do you think that you would be a good candidate for polyandry?
No, you know what I'm saying? 2 alphas in the house? No, that's an issue with me. You know what I'm saying? My thing is that having one masculine man, one feminine, you know what I'm saying? And that companionship, I love the balance of that. So I have a problem with 2 husbands, one wife. No, you understand? I'm comfortable with being in companionship with one woman. You know what I'm saying? And my wife being in companionship with one man. It works out for us. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, no. You know what I'm saying? I like the balance of one feminine, one masculine, us together in companionship, you know what I'm saying? And we ascend together.
I love it, big bro. I love it. So listen, definitely, I think this was a very good show. Eye-opening information here. It really laid down a foundation for where we're going tomorrow. with another panelist we're going to bring aboard. And for the listening audience, listen, I think that all three of us have some very conservative views. And that's a great thing, right? But I would like to invite for tomorrow's show, if anybody would like to inbox me to come aboard the show, to share a different perspective, one that maybe you have that you feel that polygamy or polyandry is something that could actually work. You know, we'd like to hear your thoughts, ideas, and ideas on that. So you guys, like I said, inbox me. You can email me also at njwage@gmail. And share your thoughts with us. Share your thoughts. And again, join us tomorrow, same time, same place, and we're going to continue this discussion on polygamy versus womanizing. Is this something that is just, you know, people are just acting out lust, or is this something that, you know, could be a viable option moving forward in here in the United States? Listen, thank you for joining us this evening, and until next time, wage love.
Town, a 14-year-old boy with a record of drug arrests was shot and killed. It was the 10th fatal shooting or stabbing in Newark in 10 days.
Another deadly shooting investigation is underway tonight in Newark. This comes after a wave of violence.
First, let me introduce y'all to the mayor, and I'm saying mayor because that's what it is. Some call me SHEILA or Silver Bullet, just know I'm all about handling biz. First, we're gonna start by saving the kids, making the city a safe place to live. Unlike some people, that's all about self. My only mission right now is to give. And now it's feeling like Resident Evil with all of these fake political leaders. They need to go sit in the bleachers and just stay motivational speakers. Being the mayor is not for the weak. Got my feet on the ground and I'm out in these streets. You can show me with action, it's not what you speak. Say you for the city ain't beat. Lit the city on fire, we're walking through ashes. Parents are tired of giving you passes. Why are our children not learning in classes? Teach about businesses, real estate taxes. Fighting to keep low income housing. So much corruption, it's astounding. Team North, we can't allow that. And there ain't no way to get around that. Nothing but change when you vote for me. Time to get back where we supposed to be. Open the door, open the door.